is because you want to communicate appropriately and correctly. Sometimes it'll lead to you over communicating.
I'm gonna say it like this: if they don't know how you really feel when you're upset, you're still giving your representative.
And it doesn't matter how many times I say it. It don't matter how many ways I've gotta. If you really want to be in a good, successful relationship with a person, you have got to learn how to communicate in a way that both of y'all can hear each other.
I think there's another layer to communication that we all really struggle with. I think I figured it out.
What is that?
It's the fun of you. Bro, I don't know where we're going to start, and I don't know where we're going to land, but we have a tough one today. It's going to be tough for me.
We gotta take off.
It's going to be tough for me because we're talking about communication. And I think I'm a good communicator, right? Mm-hmm. But as good of a communicator as I believe I am, I'm learning that there's a lot of things that I personally need to work on. So I'm excited about this conversation.
I think you're over communicating.
That's a problem.
I think that's
That's
where
a problem.
I think that's where the struggle kind of is.
That's
hard
a
for you,
problem.
because you wanna communicate. The only reason I can identify with it is because it was me, and I've learned to try and do it better. Is because you want to communicate appropriately and correctly. Sometimes it'll lead to you over communicating.
Let's land right. Let's launch off right there, because we were talking about something before the pod kicked off, and I talked about not being self-interested. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes I'd give an opinion or a stance relationally, right? That I would live in the fact that I'm not being self-interested, so I'm giving you the best advice that's for you. But because I gave someone the best advice that was probably for them relationally, that doesn't mean it was the best it wasn't the best advice for us relationally. You know what I mean? And so and that could be confusing.
It can be very confusing.
That could be very confusing, to just be in a situation where, like, I know I'm giving you good advice for you, but if it doesn't benefit us, and then when it doesn't benefit us,
then you're frustrated.
now I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think you got to be careful because as men, we want to be fixers.
Yep.
And so what happened is, even in communication, what you're saying is you were trying to fix them.
Yep.
Well, not fix them. Let me cut it. You're trying to fix the issue for them.
Yep.
Trying to help them get to a resolve.
Yep.
But you're not considering how that impacts what you got going on.
Yep.
I think that goes back to what we were just saying. Sometimes as men and as fixers and as two guys that we're intelligent. I think we're both smart. You're a little bit smarter than I am. Yeah, you are. You got book smart. I don't have book smart. I got good common sense. I don't have book smart. I'm fine with it. I'm confident in myself enough. I can say when somebody is very smart, when they're smarter. I can say somebody's handsome. I'm confident. I know my levels. But I feel like sometimes we over communicate, over analyze, which we think is helping, but I think a lot of times it actually ends up hurting more.
Yeah. And then there's times where, I know sometimes you talk about, you listen to respond, but I'm still resting what we just talked about, listening to fix. And so what about those moments where if you just would have listened and just let it just happen naturally? My dad says that a lot. Let it happen naturally. Not that so much it would fix itself, but through good communication, good dialogue, after throwing ideas out on the washboard, right? Some of the ideas talk themselves out.
Yeah. Well, me and one of my best friends, we have this thing that we do, and I learned it. We learned it both from counseling, but I learned it from my counselor. I introduced it to her as a friend because she's such a friend to me that whenever she has a problem, I'm immediately going into fix mode, just as a friend. This is no relationship, it's a friend. And so we developed this thing that when we come to each other to have conversation, and she does the same thing with me. She's trying to fix and she wants to make sure I'm good. But when we come to each other with a conversation, we always start, we'll ask the question, do you want to resolve or do you just want me to hear?
Yeah.
You want to resolve or you just want me to listen? And that's how we start the conversation. But it helps because now I know what kind of ear to have.
Yeah.
Because I can change from, do I need to listen to this from Rashawn that's going to jump in and save the day?
Yeah.
Or do I just need to let you vent it out? Because because sometimes, like you just said, sometimes if I just let you vent it out, you'll figure it out while you're talking.
I think the next thing I've also learned is that you just got to say exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. There are moments where you can be, passive or you can be very empathetic, but there's also moments where you have to just say what it is, black and white. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to layer it or lace it with anything other than, I don't like this, I do like that. And there's a way to be tactful in both approaches, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for me, I've struggled because I don't never really want to make anybody upset, and I think sometimes in not really wanting to offend people, right? I can be in a way where even though they're not offended, I walk away unhappy or I walk away unheard. And then now those are the things that live underneath the relationship.
Well, I think, hold on, whoa.
Yeah.
Before you continue,
Yeah.
rest there.
Yeah.
Why are you more concerned with how they walk away from a conversation than you are from how you walk away from it?
I mean, because I think we're all taught in a particular way to not be selfish. But I think there's moments where you can be self-interested. You know, in relationship, you know, if it's not a collective situation, especially when you're getting to know somebody, when you're trying to build together, I think when you're in union, that's when those selfish moments have to be removed a little bit. But you have to be self-interested enough to put your vision out there so that you can find out if it's compatible with the person that you're trying to build with. And truthfully, when you don't put out your real opinion, they're still meeting a form of your representative. Even if you let them in your house, if you let them in your personal space, if you let them have access to whatever, you know, if they don't know what you really think when you're upset, you know, I'm going to say it like this. If they don't know how you really feel when you're upset, you're still giving your representative. You know, and this whole thing, you know, and there's a way to communicate without being angry. I still believe that a soft tongue turns away wrath. Yeah. But we can't confuse a soft tongue turning away wrath with not saying exactly how we feel in a particular moment.
Well,
Can't do that.
Like you said, you can say, I can tell you exactly how I feel without disrespecting
Yeah.
you. What happens is a lot of people don't know enough words to communicate clearly.
Yeah.
So we resort to cuss words. We
Yeah.
resort to demeaning. We resort to
Yeah.
being petty. We resort
Yeah.
to accusing, to trigger.
Yeah.
You know, that's the biggest thing. When a person can't communicate well, they'll start triggering.
Yeah.
But if you can get over that and get above that to where, hey, I can articulate exactly where I'm at.
Yeah.
I think it does. I think you'll do fine. Let me ask you a question though.
Yeah.
This was something I was thinking about when you're talking. How do you handle the moments when you feel like you've communicated, when you feel like you've expressed it, and they still haven't heard you?
Well, I'm glad you said that because I believe when you have hard conversations, you have to have patience for them. And part of the reason why either you miscommunicate or you're misunderstood or, you know, whatever that looks like is because you had a conversation in a space that one of the parties, if not both, were in a space where they didn't have the patience to live through the entire conversation. And so for me, you know, when I don't feel heard, you know, that's worse than being talked down to or, you know, names. I don't like to repeat myself.
I can't stand
I
it.
can't. When someone says "huh" or anything, because I know I'm speaking loudly, I know I'm speaking clearly. You know what I mean? And
It drives me crazy too.
I lose it. But just talking about it with you right now, I'm learning that you've got to have patience to communicate.
Yeah.
If you don't have the patience to communicate, you will never be heard in the way that you meant for it to be sent across to the listener. It'll never happen.
I talk about it all the time. I told you I learned it from counseling. I learned a lot from counseling. Shameless plug. If you're not in counseling, you need it. Go get counseling. Everybody needs somebody. I can be Rob's listening ear every day. He can listen to all my problems, but at the end of the day, we got to go to somebody that's trained for this and somebody that's better equipped.
Yeah.
That what I was talking about is in communication is the way they put it at the time is communication is like preparing dinner.
Yeah.
I don't want to make a dinner and invite you over, and the table is full of stuff that I love, but you don't like. You
Yeah.
don't want to eat. And communication is the same way. It's if I'm communicating in a way that you can't hear, that you can't understand it, it doesn't matter how many times I say it. It don't matter how many ways. I've got to. If you really want to be in a good, successful relationship with a person, you have got to learn how to communicate in a way that both of y'all can hear each other.
I love that. And just the point that we made before that about having the time and the patience, right? I think in good, healthy relationships, you got to set aside time to communicate. As elementary as it may seem, you know, when you set aside time that says, hey, we need to do a check-in, we need to talk, we need to figure out where we are, and not letting each other go to sleep upset. We're going to talk. You got a few hours, you got, you know what I'm saying? But refusing having those boundaries in communication, because everybody has personal space boundaries. But I think relational communication based boundaries are just as important. Because we have to say it's not going to go this far. It's not going to go to the side of name calling. It's not going to go to the side of demeaning. It's not going to leave this house because I'm not going to give it a reason to leave this house, and it's not going to last longer than a particular set of time. Because the longer I stew on it, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. The longer you let me sit and stew on it. Sometimes you're like, oh, I just need some time to cool off. But what about those moments where, okay, the communication becomes hard now because I've already locked in the thought that I already have a preconceived thought in my mind that I'm not going to let you talk me out of.
Yeah. Don't give me too much time because
Yeah.
when
Think
I walk,
long, you think wrong.
I walk away. I start thinking. I
Yeah.
done created scenarios. I done rode.
Yeah.
I'm down the road.
Yeah.
I'm across the street. My
Yeah.
mind is gone. I'm going to overthink it. And that's even something I've got to work on because I've got to learn to give people time to communicate because everybody doesn't. They're not quick on their feet. They're not quick in their mind like I am. I have to learn. Give them a minute to.
So you have to be willing to, when you're having the conversation, to not try to manipulate the conversation for your good. Mm-hmm. You have to. So when you're in relationship, like this is not for me to win. This is not for you to lose. This is for us to come to an agreement. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with sometimes of us agreeing to disagree. But even in the disagreement, I had a sergeant major that said disagreement don't mean disrespect. Mm-hmm. And so even in the disagreement, we're still within the confines of the boundaries that we set, that we're not going to disrespect each other and we're not going to go to bed angry. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so now, but that also leverages me into another space about communication, especially, there's moments when I know I'm clear. I know I said what I said, but you have to be willing to hear what I said too. Yeah. I don't want to say you don't have the right to interpret what I said, but you don't have the right to interpret it for whatever you want it to mean. There's times where you have to be literal against what it is that I said.
Yeah. I think it's a real. If I'm being honest, I was with somebody years ago, and it didn't work out. And I finally had to sit down and tell them why it didn't work. It didn't work out because this is the basic way I said it. You don't respect me enough to hear what I'm saying, and receive it, and to move from there, And I learned that I could hear everything she was saying, then apply it and try and move different, act different. Something she don't like, I heard you. Let me work on it. But I could turn around the exact same way and say, hey, I really don't care for the way you did this. I don't like it when you do this. And there would be no action behind that. Yeah. And I had to finally learn, while you didn't cuss me, while you didn't slam a door, while you didn't yell at me, that was still a form of disrespect. Yeah. Because you didn't appreciate or respect me enough to stop and hear what I was saying. That's something when you realize, hey, this relationship's not going to work because I can't talk in a way you can hear. Yeah. How do you handle that when you like, man, everything else look like it should line up. We look good together. Everything seems good, but we can't talk to each other. We can't come together on how to communicate and how to move forward. That's tough.
Both parties have to be willing to communicate and hear almost at the same rate. I don't know if, when I say at the same rate, I'm talking about willingness. Everybody's comprehension level is different. I get that because it comes from your life experiences, right? Yeah. Your family of origin. I'm with that, but you have to at least have a willingness. That I'm bought into the relationship enough that until we figure it out, you know what I mean, we're going to continue to talk about this, and we're going to talk about it effectively. And that kind of lends me to what we were talking about before. You were talking about everybody needs counseling. I'm almost a proponent to believe that everybody in relationship needs couple counseling too. Mm-hmm. Because I promise you, I'm a product of a person who was in a relationship that never said how they really felt. And then when it all blew up, then what? Yeah. I've been mad about this for 2 years. You know what I'm saying? I really ain't like that since and because again, I'm a person that like, okay, I'll go into relationships saying, hey, what is it that I can do for you, versus saying, okay, what does this relationship do for us? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we communicate what we can give, but we don't communicate what we need. Yeah. That's what I've noticed for me. I all day long, what do you need? I got this, I got that. But part of it because it's my ego, if I could be honest. But equally, that same ego isn't in a space where I can be vulnerable enough to say, hey, that hurt my feelings.
Yeah. We talked about it in the previous podcast. I celebrated every day. I've gotten better at what you just said. I've gotten better at saying, hey, I don't like that. I do like this. This is what I need to move forward. Because I was just with you, and I don't know if that's the provider in us or the fixer in us that we feel like we got to make sure they're good while we suffer, kind of, or if that's just a man thing. Because I hear a lot of men that say the exact same thing. Like we work a lot of time, and we don't ever say, hey, this is what I need. But I've learned at the same rate, what you just said, at the same rate I ask a woman, what do you need from this? Are you good? It's the same way I got to communicate what I need and if I'm good.
Well, you said it. I mean, I don't think this conclusively. Again, this is all relative to my experience. But the provider in me, the ego in me, what I was taught from a framework, not like directly like from my dad or anything. Just what I saw from a framework, what I saw on TV. Our masculinity says, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we have normalized as men, I'm okay, when we really aren't.
I'm gonna tell you why it's hard for men. It's because they've stereotyped it to the point that if a man says how he feels and what he needs, he's weak.
Yeah.
And that is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I've met a lot of women that have a hard time with a man that can clearly communicate where he is, what he wants, and what he needs.
Yeah.
And it is beyond just needing sex.
Yeah.
We have the same desire. Hey, I want somebody that texts back that don't take 2 days to respond.
Yeah.
I want somebody that's consistent. I want someone that's available. The same thing you all can say. If you find a real man, you'll know a real man when they can communicate what they really need.
Sex is great, but if I can't tell you my dreams,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I was telling you before, like the biggest asset I believe that I can offer life, relationship, etc. is my brain. You get access to my brain, you got the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
It's not through my stomach. You see what I'm saying?
It might be through my stomach. I'm a big boy.
It's not
it might be through my stomach.
Sexual pleasure is great, but it's really the key to me is my brain. And it's not even so much what you give me, it's what you're willing to listen to. I will tell you everything if you're willing to listen. You see what I'm saying? And so, I'm in a space now, man, like at the end of the day, I think there's a balance where you can be self-interested and then you can be non-self-interested and make those spaces work. For me, I can't let it rest. The biggest mistake you can make is not saying how you really feel about something, because that's equally synonymous with giving your representative in a relationship. That's just as phony as acting like you open the door all the time when you know you don't.
Yeah.
Straight up.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't care. You can call me weak.
Yeah.
You can call me emotional. You can call me whatever you want to. I'm at this place at this soon to be age of 35. I've got to tell you what I feel. I've got to tell you what I like. I got to tell you what I want. I'm gonna tell you what I expect. I can tell you where I'm at, and that's because of life. Because Rob, we've been through a lot.
Yeah.
We've been there, so we can kind of see it from a different angle. One thing you cannot say with me is that I didn't communicate with you where I was, whether that be good, bad, or whether I feel like it's gonna hurt my feelings or hurt your feelings. Because it's not always easy to tell somebody, "Hey, you're not giving me what I need."
So, do you think communication and comprehension are of equal importance?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like we said, if I'm talking and you're not understanding, where are we going?
How much of that is because you just don't want to hear me?
I'm glad you just said that. That's the big part of the whole thing.
How much of it is you just don't want to hear me?
You can talk all day, but if you're talking to somebody that does not care to comprehend, that does not care to make a difference, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's where it is. Sometimes we can over communicate with people that just aren't invested.
Yeah.
We're so invested that we want it to be right. We want to communicate. We want to fix it. And they're just not invested.
But back that up. Okay, they're just not invested. But what about the person that's overly invested in their thought process? So not invested, that's cool. But you're also you're communicating with the person that's overly invested and has a false sense of reality. You just have to always remain tactful. You got to always remain respectful. Because I told you this before. They'll forget your name and remember what you said. Mm-hmm. They'll forget your name and remember what you did. No. And it is not our job in communication to add to the areas of hurt that someone may already have. My job is not to trigger you in a particular way. It's not my job. So when you communicate, man, the biggest thing is be tactful, be respectful, but note to self, be clear.
Yeah. I think my takeaway for communication,
be clear.
I said it right then. I got to take that home, write it down, and work with this thing. Yeah. It's for real though. You can be clear in this communication, but make sure you are communicating with somebody that's going the same place you're going.
Yeah.
Because it's doing you no good in this relationship when you're communicating in a level with a person. You're communicating with someone in the mind frame of this is who you're going to be with. You want to build a future with. You want to establish something with, and they just trying to hook up.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. And if you're not careful and you're not doing what you said, communicating check-in, having check-ins, and hey, where are we going with this? What is this? And being able to communicate, you'll find yourself frustrated because you're communicating with a person that they can't hear you because they're just not where you're at.
So hold on, you just went to another space. I know we were about to move, but it sounded like something about communicating your intentions up front. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to communicate your intentions up front. And I think part of the reason why a lot of miscommunication is had because we're trying to clean up something that we didn't say in the beginning.
Yeah.
I said something better than you responded.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why we have miscommunication issues in the relationship is because we're spending time cleaning up something that we weren't clear about in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And so, so now, even if that was the case, right? At what point do we grow up and just understand that, okay, even if my intentions are not good, why not just be a part of that? Why just not even include yourself in something that you don't have good intentions for?
Somebody's got to be the bigger person to stop and say, hey, let's be clear on this. Let's bring clarity to what this is.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to be the bigger person. Because if not, it's gonna be, y'all are gonna be consistently frustrated in the relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be a pull and tug.
Yeah.
Because one person's going to be pushing and pulling for the relationship to go further and to be more exclusive of whatever it is they want. And the other person be like, why are they pushing me so hard? Why they trying to push me into a relationship? Why are they trying to move so fast? Yeah. And that's what happens a lot. You're wrestling against each other because one person is trying to move forward and the other person like, I'm just slow down.
Yeah.
And exactly what you said is it. If you don't communicate that clear enough, you're going to have two people pushing and pulling. It's going to be a tug of war between moving forward and between a person that has low expectations. You got to go in that thing. Hey, what do you want out of this? What are we trying to do? And are we trying to do this together? Are we exclusively doing this together? Or are we doing this with other people that's involved and around?
Give people time to acknowledge the choice that they made in a conversation. Like if the conversation is conclusive in any matter, right? There has to come a point where you don't try to talk someone out of a decision that they already made. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And you have to give time for those results to yield themselves, whether they be positively or negatively, whatever it looks like. Because at the end of the day, when you're having a conversation and communication is had and comprehension is lended, what happens when you talk that person out of a decision they made that was good for them, and then it still ends up not working out when you could have just let that person,
let them go.
I think there's another layer to communication that we all really struggle with. I think I figured it out.
What is that?
It's the form of being rejected in the conversation. It's the form of rejection in communication. It's the, I don't want you to say no to me. I don't want you to say bye to me.
Yeah. I think the old me might have been scared of that. This new me I'm going to say bye before you say bye. I don't have the time.
You are a dummy.
I'm serious. I don't have the time.
Oh my God.
I don't have the time.
I'm a little more empathetic than you.
I don't have the patience. I'm very empathetic. I'm very emotional.
No.
I'm very in touch with my inner feelings.
No.
But I don't this is the thing. When you've been through certain things in life and you feel like you've lost time, you don't have time. And I said that all the time. I thank God for the time I have. I don't have time to waste in silly conversations. I don't argue with people. I told you that. I think we had a podcast a long time ago. We were talking about something about argument. I was like, I don't argue with nobody that can't make either one of my car payments.
Yeah.
I don't argue. I'm not gonna fuss with you. I'm not going. If I realize I'm talking clear and you just making the decision to not understand, I'm not gonna keep going back and forth with you. I've learned. The old me was where you were, Rob. Just, I want to make sure everybody's okay. I want to make sure you're good. I'm Rob Gandhi.
Rob Gandhi.
I want everybody to be okay. Praise the Lord. No, I learned the block button. I learned how to unfollow on Facebook. I learned how to unfriend.
It breaks my heart.
No, it don't vex my heart. I have. You got to get some of these people. You got to get them away from you. You got to usually remove it if it's not there. Because I don't
go.
If it's
cutting
not there,
up the bridge again.
No, if it's not, I'm not even talking about bridge. I'm serious. I'm serious, and especially with the thing is communication, because they can have all the other qualities, but if y'all can't talk, if you all can't communicate together,
communication can bring out the worst in someone.
Yeah, if you can't, why are y'all doing it? For what? If I can't talk to you, if I can't help you be better, if you can't help me be better, if I can't hear you, you can't hear me. What are we really doing? And where are we really going to go with this? Because how are we going to have a relationship? How would we raise children?
Ask me what I'm willing to receive, and then we're gone.
What are you willing to receive?
Good communication.
There you go.
Hey, yo, for more content just like this, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to Everything Give Me a Second on this YouTube channel. And don't forget to click the links below to watch other videos that are just like this.